big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Saw the side of the World Trade Center exploded into flames and black smoke. We are going to join another one of our New York affiliates, WABC, for their live coverage.
Plane overhead, and then all of a sudden I thought it sounded kind of louder. Then I looked up, and all of a sudden it smashed right dead into the center of the World Trade Center. Big flash of flame, fire coming out from all over. Then all the bricks is a huge hole right now. It almost looks like the plane probably went through. I'm not sure.
Winston, can you see? Are you on the north side there where the plane made contact?
Yes, I am.
Now, when you say a huge hole, one of our earlier witnesses, Libby Clark, said not much of the plane came down off the building. Much of it went
totally
right
into the building.
It's in the building, from what you can see.
Right.
Now, can you see if there's a lot of debris downstairs, Winston?
No, because it looked like it's inverted. With the impact, everything went inside the building.
Inside.
The only thing that came out was a little bit of the outside awning. But I'd say the hole is, let me just get a better look right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd say the hole takes about, looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay, just put Winston on pause there for just a moment.
Okay, the whole building just exploded some more. The whole top part.
Okay.
The building's still intact. People are running up the streets. Am I still connected?
Winston, this would support probably what Libby and you both said, that perhaps the fuselage was in the building that would cause a second explosion such as that.
That's what just happened then.
That certainly.
Yeah, people are running up.
We're getting word that perhaps.
Okay, hold on. The people here everybody's panicking.
All right, Winston, let me put Winston on hold for just a moment.
Okay, I don't know how much longer we're staying. I'm inside of a diner right now.
Well, Winston, you know what? If you could give us a call back, I just don't want to panic here on the air. Let's just take some of our pictures from News Chopper 7. Now, one of our producers said perhaps a second plane was involved, and let's not even speculate to that point, but at least put it out there that perhaps that may have happened. The second explosion would certainly back the theory from a couple of eyewitnesses that the plane fuselage perhaps stayed in those upper buildings. Now, if you look at the second building, there are two, that both twin towers now are on fire. Now, this was not the case, am I correct? A couple of moments ago. This is the second twin tower now on fire, and we're going to check on the second flight if perhaps that had happened. This all began at about 8:48 this morning. Again, what we know, in case you're just joining us, a small plane, not a Cessna type or 5 or 6 seater, but instead perhaps a passenger flight, ran into the north side of the World Trade Center. As you can see, the second explosion that you're looking at now in the second twin tower, it has spread much debris, much more debris than the first explosion or the first accident. Is Winston still on the line with us? Okay, he's not there, but do we have, I'll just talk to my producer, do we have an eyewitness that perhaps sees better than we do from these pictures? Again, you can see that there is debris falling off.
Come on, dip.
Hello, world. What have we learned?
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Tuesday, the year of our Lord, May 23rd, 2017. Belly up to the bar, we've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Flackbait's gonna be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and of course, naturally, the lava lamp is lighted. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, we talk about it all here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the drinks are not. But we ask as you flush the handle, jiggle the damn handle, and don't forget to tip your server. Tonight in the Saloon, one initial question: what the fuck have we ever learned? And do we take it to heart? Are we even teachable? We chat with the East Coast political goddess tonight, Kari Baxter Donovan. She's going to weigh in on the state of the planet and a few other things as well. 22 people are killed and 119 are wounded in Manchester, England. Tucker Carlson and Nigel Farage weigh in on the event. The bombing suspect is, of course, identified. I wonder if he's a Muslim. And much, much, much more here at the Saloon. A ton more. So much that I have all this stuff written down. I don't get to a third of it. So let's just start the show, shall we?
I want to go down to Nigel Farage, certainly an ascendant political figure in the UK, led the charge for Brexit last summer. We've got him on the line now. Nigel, you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
What's your reaction to this?
Well, horrified. I mean, this is a direct attack on children, which marks a new low, I think, in all forms of terrorism. I mean, we've seen, over the years, we've seen attacks on all sorts of different communities. In fact, the last nail bomb we saw in the United Kingdom was actually planted in a gay pub. So we've seen all sorts of horrendous things happen. But a direct attack on kids, it is absolutely awful.
What do you think the ramifications of this are going to be? I mean, given that we don't know anything beyond what we've reported now, but it does...
Hey there. Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
It raised certain suggestions, and I wonder if it will change the nature of the debates that have been going on in the UK for a while.
Well, I think to a very large extent, we've looked at the kinds of terrorism that have happened in Belgium and France, and they've been incidents, repeated incidents. I mean, 20 incidents in the last 3 years in France of Islamic terrorism. And I think we've kind of, I won't say got complacent, we've convinced ourselves that we're in a better place than the rest of Europe on this.
I'll say you got complacent. Don't mind me, Nigel Farage. I'll say it for you. You have become complacent. France just got through electing Emmanuel Macron over Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen promised to at least attempt to do something about the Muslim problem in France. So essentially what the French have decided to do is that they're going to double down on stupid. Doubling down on stupid has a price. The question is, after this, 22 people killed last night at a concert specifically attended by young kids, young girls, young women, some guys, all went there to have fun, listen to a singer, and they wind up injured or dead at the hands of Islam. So you've got an election coming up, England, UK. What direction are you going to go? Let me remind you of a few things. United Kingdom, shall I? 7 July 2005. Central London bombings conducted by 4 separate Islamist extremist suicide bombers which targeted civilians using the public transit system during the morning rush hour. 3 bombs were detonated on 3 separate trains of the London Underground and 1 on a double-decker bus. 56 people were killed, 700 were injured. It was the UK's worst terrorist incident since the 1988 Lockerbie bombing and the first Islamic suicide attack in the country. January to February 2007. Miles Cooper letter bomb campaign. Miles Cooper said he was motivated by anti-authority and opposition to surveillance. 30 June 2007, the Glasgow International Airport attacked, perpetrated by Islamist extremists. 5 people injured. The only death was one of the perpetrators. May 22nd, 2008. Exeter, attempted bombing in a cafe toilet by an Islamist extremist, injuring only the perpetrator. But wait! Oh, wait! That buttery goodness, United Kingdom, only gets better, doesn't it? April 29th, 2013, a Ukrainian student and right-wing extremist stabbed Mohammed Salim, a Birmingham resident, to death. He later admitted to police that he wished to start a race war. 1 incident. But let's stay in 2013, shall we? May 22nd. Just the next month, a British soldier was murdered in an attack in Woolwich by Michael, last name I can't even pronounce, 2 Islamic extremists armed with a handgun. Wait, you're not supposed to be able to get handguns in London, and certainly not in the United Kingdom. How did that happen? And a number of bladed implements. Both men were sentenced, by the way, subsequently to life imprisonment. One of them got a whole life order, and one was ordered to serve 45 years. December 5th, 2015, a man with a knife attacked 3 people at the tube station in East London. The attacker was another Muslim who was shouting, "This is for Syria." The attacker was found guilty of attempted murder in June 2016. 3 people were injured in the attack. 1 was seriously injured. June 16, 2016, Labour MP Joe Cox, age 41, was killed by Thomas Mayer, who shouted "Britain first" during the testimony given in court. Interesting, a one-off. March 22nd, 2017, the Westminster attack. Khalil Massoud, 52-year-old British man born in Kent, as Adrian Elms drove a car into pedestrians and went on Westminster Bridge before crashing the vehicle and before being shot himself. The attack was being treated as an act of terrorism motivated by Islamic extremism. And of course, May 22nd, 2017, the Manchester bombing. So, if you think that you're safe, UK, you're not. A lot has gone on in France, but do you possibly think it's going to stop, UK? I don't believe so.
Now, obviously, I'm not going to rush to judgment as to who the perpetrator is.
I will. As I said, I'll do it for you. In the back of your mind, Nigel, you knew exactly who was responsible, didn't you? Because it accords with what I call Bizet's axiom of terror.
But I think that any sense that the United Kingdom is safer than France or Belgium has rather disappeared this evening.
Imagine that. Yes. France or Belgium.
It sure seems to have. Were you surprised that this took place in Manchester rather than London?
At least the UK isn't the rape capital of the world, of the planet, like Sweden. Oh, that's right, good left-leaning Sweden. That can't possibly be, can it?
Yeah, funny enough, I was actually in Manchester myself tonight. I mean, it is our second city. It is a big city. It is a thriving city. But yes, you know, we think of, when terrorism happens in this country, we think of the London Tube bombings. We think of the guy who ran those people down on Westminster Bridge. The fact that it's happening outside of London, the fact that it's directed at kids. This is going to be a very big shock for the country when it wakes up tomorrow morning.
Yes, won't it, though? By the way, if you're wondering what BZ's terror axiom is, it's this. The law, and you've seen it enacted any number of times to the point where I actually had to name it, so I have named it for you. BZ's terror axiom is this. The longer authorities conceal the nature of actors in terror incidents, the more likely they are Muslim. I wonder if this is proven out by history.
There's an election coming up. Does this play a role?
Well, so far in the election, we've been talking basically about Brexit and completing Brexit and actually terror, open-door immigration. They've played relatively low roles in the election campaign so far. Now, there are 16 days to go. If it were to turn out that this attack, let's say for argument's sake, had been taken place by somebody who'd been fighting with ISIS in Syria and had returned home, then it does clearly have the potential to change the way people think and to change the whole debate. We've just not been talking about security in this election at all so far. From tomorrow morning, we will be.
Imagine that. Here's what the UK people, I'm sure, were thinking up until last night. Well, this stuff, it occasionally occurs in the UK, sometimes in London and surrounding areas, but really we don't have all that much to worry about because a really nasty, large, multiple casualty event hasn't occurred on UK soil in quite some time. It seems that, luckily, fingers crossed, the Islamists seem to be focusing on France these days. Oh, good for them.
Why is that, do you think?
I think that Brexit on its own is such a massive defining issue in British politics. I mean, it's the biggest thing constitutionally that's happened in this country for over 300 years. And that has completely dominated the debate. Plus, as I say, we've really rather thought that these nasty things happen in France, happen in Belgium, happen in places that haven't got as good a security services as us.
That's, oddly enough, exactly what I thought. They went back, they became complacent, and they had in their heads, their wheelhouses, the "it can't happen here" syndrome until it happens there. And oh, yes, now it's happening to your daughters and your sons, your children.
Have been, I think, lulled into a slight sense of complacency.
Do you think a fear of terror played any role in Brexit passing in the first place?
I think it did.
Stop. Let me ask you. Well, I think you already know my opinion on that. Folks listening live, folks listening in chat, and folks listening in podcast, do you think Brexit had anything to do at all with terrorism? In all of the European Union, if you have to ask the question indeed, how daft are you? But the elitists, what I call the Gaups, in the UK and the European Union believe opposite. A Gaup, as you well know, is a guilty, overeducated white people, the elitists who are separated from these terrible events and indeed can operate in a vacuum because that's how they must operate. Indeed. It can't happen here until it happens there.
And in fact, I very much used what Mrs. Merkel had done when she'd said, you know, as many of you as want to come can come.
Stop. History looks back. History points a damning finger at lots of people, and I'm going to point my damning voice at one individual, and that would be Angela Merkel. Whatever it is that the UK is suffering now, and all the rest of the European Union nations, all 17 of them, there's only one individual in which history will prove, and I will do it now for you, blame. That's Angela Merkel for opening up the doors and having the sluice gates open for literally millions of Muslims, first into Germany and then into every other EU nation, without even a thought of stemming the tide.
And of course, there wasn't a single security check on anybody. So yes, it did play a factor in Brexit, but not as big a factor as the democratic concept of getting back control of our country. That was the primary reason for Brexit. We want.
Yes, but why did you want to get back control of your country? Because you are still concerned after numerous years, decades of being ruled by Brussels, by essentially a cadre of pretty much unelected individuals who made all the other EU states dance at the end of the strings, whether or not you agreed with whatever law they passed in Brussels.
Wanted to make our own laws, not have them made somewhere else. But certainly, terrorism, open-door migration, and still, I mean, to this very day, there are tens of thousands of people a month crossing the Mediterranean and getting into Europe.
What Jeremy Corbyn represents at least one half of the British electorate, or a poll, a position on the political spectrum there. What's his party's position on terror more broadly?
Well, I mean, he takes the view that we're all world citizens. He's totally relaxed, really, about people moving freely across the world. And he has, over the years, allied himself quite closely with Hamas, Hezbollah, and even the leaders of the IRA. I think on terrorism, he's very, very weak. And
you think he's very, very weak? Nigel Farage, that's one of the few times that you've made a massive, massive understatement. He's damn near an Islamist himself. If he embraces the Muslim Brotherhood, are you kidding me? Be truthful, Nigel. Tell the truth. I value honesty and clarity. Please say it for us.
If this was to have a really big impact on any of the leading protagonists in this election campaign, I suspect that it's him that would be seen to be soft on this issue.
Okay, soft on the issue. But here's the big deal. We saw how France went. We know pretty well how Germany's going to go. By the way, for those of you who don't know, it's not Emmanuel Macron who actually runs France. Okay, let's all chime in together. It's actually Angela Merkel who runs France right now.
Is there less security in Manchester than there is in London?
Well, London clearly has more security than Manchester, but I mean, this was a rock concert. There were 21,000 people there, mostly kids, although there were some parents in attendance. You know, they would have had normal security procedures, but it looks like this device didn't go off inside the concert hall itself. It actually went off in the foyer outside.
That's true. That is where it did detonate.
Well, I guess the public would have had access. It raises all sorts of concerns, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult, isn't it? It's very difficult to guarantee people's safety, security, wherever crowds of people meet. I mean, it literally, if you were to think about every single, soccer match, every single rock concert, it's very difficult to know what limits you can go to with security without actually making the cost of these events prohibitive. Right. Very, very difficult problem.
You want to know what the problem is? The problem is not addressing the issue. The problem is not at least stating the problem itself. Let me again do it for you. The problem is Islam. Islam is a barbaric death cult conducted by barbaric Bedouins and nomads, and that's their roots. They don't recognize, say, state lines, etc. You all know the Islamic utterance of me against my brother. Me and my brother against my cousin. Me and my brother and my cousin against the outsider. me and my brother and my cousin against the village, and me and my cousin and my brother and the village against the outsider. That's called a clue.
And my last question to you, these things are impossible, Nigel, to anticipate, obviously, but was there any sense at all that the terror threat in and around Manchester was higher recently? Did you get that sense?
No, not at all. I think everybody thought if there was going to be another incident, it would be in London. We have been on a constant high state of alert for a very, very long time, but everybody thought it would be an attack on a big symbol in London, and
right.
I guess Parliament was the last one. The thought that, and I would say we don't yet know who, but the thought this kind of thing would happen at a concert for the teenage girls was almost unimaginable.
Yeah. To children and their parents. Nigel Farage, thanks a lot for that.
That's true. But who got you there? You have to ask the basic fundamental question. How did you in the UK get there now? How did France get to where it is? France is, as far as I'm concerned, France is essentially gone. The electorate has weighed in and said the current state of affairs in France, Paris being a slum, Muslims chanting 5 times a day, genuflecting towards Mecca, that's well and good with us. That we have to take a few casualties along the way. Oh, fucking well. Electorate, know your place. Because we, the bureaucrats, the government, we know better than you do about deciding who lives and who dies. Because that's essentially what it gets down to. Who lives and who dies. And the elites in Europe, in the UK, in the EU, they don't mind sacrifices. And now it's pretty clear at this point they don't mind sacrificing your children. They don't mind stacking them up just a bit like cordwood. And this will continue until the umbrage becomes so great because it becomes a scales. It becomes a scales of deaths versus political correctness. And they always want to make sure that the political correct side, we can't short shrift that. So if you have to be sacrificed on the altar of political correctness, the elites in the EU and certainly in the UK, definitely in France and most fucking definitely in Germany, they don't mind sacrificing you. They prove it time and again. And you, like the sheep and the little cows and the lambs that you are, bow along with it. And you decide that you're going to say, oh, it's bad. Islamophobia is bad. Really bad. Did you know that in the Quran there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim? Do you know that the bulk of the Muslim world thinks that those that we in the West would tend to call moderate Muslims are people that are not practicing Islam correctly? Islam is a barbaric death cult. It is rife with misogyny. It is rife with pederasty. It's embraced by barbarism. I continue to say it's not a religion. It is a social, societal, cultural construct that people mistake as a religion because it flows through all of those vast areas connecting all the people together. Now you may say, BZ, I know because I'm a wise listener that most of the Muslims live in Indonesia. Yes, they do. And if they ever take the mindset of the Middle Eastern practicing of Islam, you're going to have a problem that will go global. It's already bad that this is stemming from the Middle East. You get all the people in Indonesia behind the way that Islam is practiced in the Middle East. If you think you have a problem now, just wait until you get... Wow, that was loud. Okay, tell you what, that was my caller coming in at the bottom of the hour. I don't know how loud it was on your end, but it was really, really darn loud on my end. Anyway, at the bottom of the hour, we do have Kari Baxter Donovan coming in. She's going to weigh in on the state of all the stuff that's going in right now, that's going on throughout the world. My mother told me, don't do this. Don't unacknowledge people. So I need to acknowledge all the people that are in chat right now. And that includes Mike. That includes Bigfoot. Welcome to you, Bigfoot. Whiskey Dale. There's another person from the Hugh Hewitt cadre that for whatever reason, he's a traitor, and now he's come over to the BZ side. Welcome to you, Dale, Whiskey, one each. And then Dave Milner is there. Socratic Oath, welcome to you. Mary Brockman, and one unidentified, unrevealed viewer. And as per our policy at the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, we do not, unlike the federal government and certain people aligned with it, we do not unmask one unidentified viewer. So, welcome to all the people in chat. Howdy to you also, Whiskey Dale. Thank you for appearing. Socratic Oath is a new one in chat. All well and good. Glad very, very much to see you here. Tell you what, we'll going to go to a little bit of a break, and then after the break, we will talk. We will speak with Kari Baxter Donovan, see what she has to say. So please, thanks for listening live. Thanks for interacting in chat, and thanks for listening later on in the podcast. Please come back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cough was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
play. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And so every time that someone calls in, the mic level goes down, so I think I'm going to have to turn that up just a little bit, because I believe we have someone on the line. We have what I term the East Coast political goddess, Kari Baxter Donovan, on the line. Do we, in fact, have, he queried, Kari Baxter Donovan, comma, one each? Do we?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
I think so.
All right. There we go. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We spoke a little bit earlier. I first met you, if I'm not mistaken, during the election last year. You weighed in on the election November 8th, and we had comment from you on the East Coast, and that's why I call you the East Coast political goddess, because, after all, that's where you are. You had some great political insight at the time, and we've had you on the show a couple of times since, where you gave your background and whatnot. And so it's nice to have you on and weigh in on all sorts of things right now. So let me ask you, since this seems to be the topic of the day and certainly of yesterday, do you have any particular thoughts regarding the Manchester bombing first?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for letting me come back and chat with you, because I kind of missed you. So I'm excited to be back.
Wow, I missed.
You're a reprobate for sure, and I love it.
I am that.
Yes. So Manchester, when I first saw it come across on Twitter, and I saw somebody saying, "Oh, we stand with London," or "We stand with," the typical bleeding heart kind of, we want a virtue signal.
Right. Let's have a hashtag.
Through. I thought, yes, I got angry because I have a little girl. And I was a little girl, and I love little girls. And so when I saw that, my first reaction was, no, I don't. I don't stand with you. You're stupid. You're a bunch of idiots. You dragged your poor little innocent girls right into the den of danger, and you did it on purpose because you're stupid. So, obviously I feel very full of compassion, pain, sympathy, empathy for the parents who lost children. For anybody who loses a loved one, especially a child, that is something I would never survive from it. I just don't think I would. So, yes, I have compassion, but more than that, I'm angry. And that was my first reaction, and I wrote it, and I thought, I'm going to get a whole bunch of pushback on this. But, of course, I'm shadow banned, so I'm not going to get a bunch of pushback on it. But I thought for sure somebody would get into a fight with me, which people just don't fight with me as much anymore on Twitter. I kind of miss it. Nobody even commented. But I was relieved that was sort of how everyone else around me that I saw, whose posts I follow, sort of had the same feeling. So I was comforted by that a little bit in the weirdest twist of fate. Isn't that bizarre? But I was mad. And then to watch the mayor talk about, this is just kind of our daily lives, and, we're so urban chic and cool now, so I wanted to punch that guy. I don't know how men stop themselves from falling on that guy.
No, that's absolutely right. That's enervating. It's angering to the point where, are you trying to tell us, Sadiq Khan, that's a clue in the first place, are you trying to tell us, Sadiq Khan, that we're going to norm this? This is norming. Actually, Daniel Patrick Moynihan had a great phrase for this in the 80s. anybody remember what that was? It was this.
I have to go Google it way before my time. What?
Defining deviance down. And we are beginning to actually define deviance down to the point where people, the government, are attempting to get us acclimated to the point that this should be the norm. This should be acceptable, because to do anything else would point fingers that, in their opinion, would be entirely too judgmental. We are now defining deviancy down, and that phrase is costing lives.
It is, and I don't watch TV, and I don't watch movies, and I don't listen to any of their radio, and I don't eat their weird food, whatever they do. I stay away from progressives, and I have for a long time, like more than half of my life. And so I still have this fight in me, for liberty, freedom, love. I don't know if that guy's talking next to me saying those things. I really don't know how somebody's going to have to chain my foot to the ground that I don't just automatically find myself in his face. Now, I'm not really a fighter. I'm more of I'm a quiet person. But when things happen like that, I just find myself in the mix of it. I just start running into the danger. I get into people's faces. Sometimes I think, how did I even get here? I don't know. It's just automatically find myself in that situation. I do not know men. They have testosterone. I don't know how the men haven't found themselves just in that guy's face, although I did see the British guy who makes for Rebel Media. He made something on InfoWars today. What is that guy's name? I can't think.
Oh, you're talking about
pretty fired up.
Paul Joseph Watson?
No, I do like him, but there's another guy who he basically for Rebel Media, he's out there like by himself, and he just goes around and makes these videos. And I think there was something up on InfoWars today. And shoot, how do I not have his name? I've watched him in the past where he just basically like goes around and gets his butt kicked constantly by these Muslims who are out there, and he's really exposing what is going on there in Britain. If I look up InfoWars, I'll find him. Anyway, so he makes me feel like at least there's one man left in Britain, but
a couple of points.
I don't know how they do it.
A couple of points, if I could. Dave made some excellent points in chat. He said, I stand in solidarity with the patriots of the United Kingdom and around the world who are speaking the truth and peacefully demonstrating in opposition to the spread of the Islamic hate cult into the civilized world. He also said, remember, this is the same Sadiq Khan that would condemn a similar attack on a mosque. Now, do you think, this is called the BZ logistical reversal theory. Now do the reverse. What would happen had something like this occurred at some kind of an event in the Muslim world, and it was done?
We know what would happen.
It was done in the name of Catholicism, let's say, and with all the events that have taken place at the hand of Islam, stated by Islam. Now substitute that word for, again, let's say Catholic. And do you think that there would be one Catholic church unburned in all of the United Kingdom, all of the European Union, or even in the United States? So what is the difference? What is the difference?
Well, because because they're still fighting, but our side has given up. They've all walked away, and they don't want to fight and get their hands dirty, or, I watch, there are a couple of these leftist, progressive humanists that I watch out of Britain, and they're Remainers, and they're constantly hammering on how everybody's being mean, and it's this meanness that they don't want to be represented, they don't want the EU to be represented with meanness, and they're European citizens. They're not British, even though they're in Britain. And they just talk about constantly how Trump, and they're obsessed with Trump, and how Trump supporters, and how Trump is mean, and mean this, mean that. I'm thinking it looks like a bunch of little girls at a tea party. But these men who constantly are talking about these issues, it's all they think about constantly, and they reframe it as what was the comment that one of them made today? I mean, they reframe it as always it's our fault, and it's always Trump supporters' fault, even though they're way over there. So one of the comments was today that one of them was making that the extreme left just fuels the extreme right, and that we recruit for each other. And then they all chuckle, how they're moderates in the middle, and nobody's listening to them because their solution would be, and then they don't have any solutions. It's like, well, you don't have any solutions either. You just want to sit in the middle and do nothing. You want to cast blame on the left, cast blame on the right, do nothing, because I think they're so afraid, they're so scared, they can't even think straight. But they're certainly not fighting for their children's safety.
This is how terribly inculcated that frame of mind is in, for example, the United States. A former general under Obama, Clark, said that, again, this does nothing but emphasize that it's not Muslims, it's the fact that they don't have jobs. It doesn't have anything to do with the ideology. It doesn't have anything to do with their religion. It's because these poor people don't have jobs. Excuse me. Are you fucking kidding me? This is a late-night show, so I get to say that. It's
hey, do I get to say it too?
What happens, for example, when we begin to equate political correctness with we've lost the ability to defend ourselves? Where even self-defense gets pushed into the corner of political correctness, where self-defense is not warranted anymore. It's more of a mindset. We must be more understanding of different cultures. That's right, different cultures who don't mind saying, and have said so for decades and century after century, that we're going to kill the infidel, and we're going to rape your women, and we're going to continue to be misogynistic, we're going to continue to push gays off the tops of buildings, because that's the way we like it, and we're Muslims, and no one can change us. Now, is that the kind of society that we wish to have right here? Let me be blunt, because, again, it's a late-night show, and it's mine, and I get to do this. I've had working for me, because I've specifically asked, on 4 separate occasions when none of the others were around, former soldiers that had been assigned to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, did you ever hear this phrase from the Muslims? Women are for procreation and boys are for fun. And all of them, to an individual, started laughing and said, yeah, man, that's one of the first things we found out when we got here. Misogynism, pedophilia, that's the norm. You want to talk about norming? That's the norm in Islam as it's practiced in the Middle East. Now, not necessarily in Indonesia yet. That's the big question mark. But I go back again to my bottom line phrase is this: Islam is as Islam does. Prove me wrong.
Well, I have been on a constant theme for, about a year now, that that we're a Judeo-Christian country, and that we all have had to go through some sort of reformation, reformed, religion, that all of our religions have reformed getting here and making our foundation, our foundation, our American foundation. So in other words, Judaism reformed, and that's why we're Judeo-Christian. Christians even reformed, Catholics reformed, and that Islam has to reform, that we have to start saying, listen, you can't be here unless you reform. And that means this, and this. You can't just be this dirty, barbaric cult and be here in America. Now, what they do over there, we have no control over it. And obviously, they've all stood down, and they've been forced down. I had a young man. He's actually a black man, a young black man who corresponds with me on Twitter, and he just writes to me all the time about how scared he is, how helpless he feels to protect his family. He's very concerned about the women in his family. He has a number of women who live with him, like a grandmother, an aunt, a mother, a wife, a daughter. So it's like him and all these women, poor guy. And he has no gun. He has a baseball bat. That's it. And he said, I can't, even if I use a gun to protect myself while I'm being attacked, I'm going to get into trouble, and we all know that. And I'm scared for my mother to go out because I think she's going to get raped. And so and I keep saying, and Dave knows too, that, this global patriot movement, our patriot brothers and sisters in other parts of the world are dealing with things that we really can't comprehend here as far as this Muslim invasion goes. So, what we can say, we can come up with a lot of ideas and say a lot of things, but they're dealing with reality there. And so I think that Islam needs to reform. Some people say wipe it off the face of the planet, which I have a hard time with because, I'm sort of libertarian. Like, I want people to be able to choose what they want to do. And if they want to worship this God, I would want to give them that opportunity, right? I think that that's their liberty. But why does it have to be so intertwined with all of these barbaric practices that we really can't tolerate? So, I don't know. I say they have to go through a reformation.
I would agree. I would tend to agree.
Die.
But here's the other thing that perhaps, obviously, a lot of people say, BZ, you're about as nuanced as a sledgehammer. Well, sometimes on this issue, yes, I can be like that. But I must state, though, unequivocally, this. Do I think there are bad people in Islam? Of course, of course. There are also good people in Islam that those who don't know any better call moderates. There are people who occasionally have the guts to stand up and say, this is not the way that we believe Islam should be practiced. Now, if you actually go out, and I say this because I have 2 copies of the Quran and 2 copies of the Hadith, and I actually took the time to read them. And the reason I wanted to read them was to find out whether or not the things that were terrible that I'd heard quoted about Islam were true. And I would say about 95% of the bad quotes that I've heard in Islam is true, although many people would say in retort to that Islam says not to kill. I haven't found too many that don't say it's bad to kill, parenthesis, except infidels. And who are the infidels? See, the thing about Islam, mostly it doesn't mind telling you exactly what it wants to do. So I have to throw that out into the ozone. Then I have to back up and say, no, I don't think that every person who thinks he's a Muslim is a bad person. All I'm saying is that the bulk of people who look upon those as moderates would simply say, you're not practicing Islam properly. To the great extent, to about a 95 percentile, I'd say yes, they're absolutely correct. Look, already we have in America, and go on my blog, go on Google, find this out. The majority of Muslims in America, 51%, already state and believe that Sharia law should be the law of the land in the United States of America. No one tells you that. You have to dig that out. And I don't mind telling everybody about that. If that is the mindset that we are already facing in the United States of America, and we have not been absolutely awash from Muslims from, say, North Africa or other countries yet. This is one time when you can say, thank God for the Atlantic. If that's our current state of affairs in the United States of America, you have to do the logical extension and ask, oh my God, what's our fate? Are we going to go as Europe?
The first time that I started warning people about Sharia law was probably about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and I got banned off of Facebook for it. I had a bunch of friends freaking out because, of course, people don't want to hear bad news. But to me, I'm always projecting into the future what I think is going to happen. And I'm like, it's a natural progression that at some point we're going to have to deal with Sharia law. To me, I just see it clearly, and I just say it. But it freaks some people out. It scares the heck out of them. And I got banned off of Facebook for that one. So, I mean, naturally, and then I get comfortable with the idea, well, it's here, but I've known for a long time it was going to get here. I'm not comfortable with it, but, it's here, and I think that the natural progression of that is going to be that we're going to have some public debate about it. What worries me is that the left is so butthurt every single time we say, hey, let's reason something out with you, because they just demand to have their very own way. And I think that they've all gone insane. They have situational ethics, situational morals, and
Absolutely.
all they can do is guide everything. Every thought they have has to do with, how do I feel right now? I want to feel good right now, and that's what I'm going to decide. They don't plan in the future. They don't care about their children. I'm going to say it. They do not care about their children. They do not care about their children's lives. They do not care about their children's future. It is as clear as day. They care about how they feel in that moment. And then that's what everything is based on.
Yes,
so
that's what I said about
what worries me.
The bureaucracies and the governments that are damn near sponsoring Islam. If I could break for just a second. Socratic Oath in the chat room said they want Sharia. Linda Sansur, and I'm guessing that you already know who she is fooling all the feminist women into wanting Sharia law. That's the conundrum that I simply do not understand.
This is what I do. This is what I do as an activist, is every time I find out that she's been someplace, I contact some of the women and I say, if you went to speak to her and you left with your vagina intact, you're a hypocrite, because you're supposed to let her have your vagina.
Well, let's not mention your clitoris either. Let's just bring everyone along
the entire thing. She wants
FGM,
the whole thing.
certainly.
Apparently she wants the whole thing, unless you gave it to her.
What the
you're
hell?
A hypocrite. You're
what
a hypocrite.
the hell, Carrie? What's wrong with that? You womenses should just go along with that. And if that's what Islam wants, that's what you should be willing to sacrifice.
Hey, this is a late night show, so I can say it. I kind of like my girl parts. I am offended by her. And again, if she's in the same room with me, I'm going to accidentally fall on her until I'm like on top of her hitting her. I'm sorry. You're going to have to remove me from the room. And I promise you, if any of my friends who have gone drinking whiskey with me are in the chat room or listening, they can attest to this. I'll be very quiet and very nice until somebody crosses that line. And then it's like, oh, pull Carrie off, pull Carrie away. And that's, if she gets near me, you're going to hear about it in the news. She's so disgusting, and that's all I think of. And that's what I want everyone to think of whenever they hear her name, is she wants to go and scoop women's vaginas off. So I think we should have a social media campaign and remind everybody of that until they're disgusted by her.
That's what I
Did
don't
I
get.
interrupt your point about her? I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent. She freaks me out.
Sure. The thing that I just don't understand is the viewpoint of feminists with Linda Sarsour, with her viewpoint, and the fact it's like they don't want to know about history, they don't want to hear about reality, just as feminists, they hold on to, say, Margaret Sanger. They hold on to Islam. They hold on to Sansur. They hold on to all these things that are anathema to their own well-being. I don't understand.
Right, well, I can't explain to you the mind of a feminist, because
I can explain
have
it.
Never been a feminist.
I can explain it. They're fucking cowards. They are cowards.
So they're cowards, but they're more than cowards. They've chosen
that's just
a different evolutionary path. They've chosen a different evolutionary path, and they're going down this path. They're goddesses in their minds. And you call me a goddess, and that's so sweet. I appreciate that. But to me, that's just like a feminist gone haywire, right? These feminists are they're everything that we're warned to really not be if you want to ever get along with anybody. But they worship themselves. So they can't really comprehend when you're telling them
that could be it. That could be it. They worship themselves, and all else falls aside.
They worship themselves. Yeah, they do. They worship themselves. And another person, again, I can tolerate a feminist for probably 2 or 3 minutes before I start. There's no filter left anymore for these people, because I don't believe that they care about their children. And if they don't care about their children, then they don't care about my children, and my children matter to me. So I constantly say, you have absolutely no concern about anybody else other than yourself.
Why would they care about children? Because they're all about killing children.
Well, as a woman, there are things about men that we can say are true, that are not male bashing. It is what it is. Men and women are different. For men, for example.
No, what? You can't say that.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yes. I'm going to go there. Just watch this. There was the hashtag on Twitter. It was the modern 8-ball. What would you see on a modern 8-ball? And always with the modern 8-ball, you're always asking, like, is he cute? Does he like me? Does he think I'm hot? That kind of stuff. So I was thinking, here's the modern responses. It would pop up and it would say, wear heels, bring pizza, right? So because that works for every man in the entire world. And that's just true. It is. That would work, wouldn't it?
We have about 1 minute to go before the top of the hour. A couple of questions. Number one, will you hang on for the next segment?
Yes.
Okay. Number two,
yes,
hey, Whiskey Dale, who's a new guy in chat, because his name is Whiskey Dale, he said, oh, you're going to be talking about whiskey. So, yes, as a matter of fact, when we come back, we are going to be talking about whiskey. So, Whiskey Dale, love your name. Please don't go away. Oh, and we're going to be talking
anywhere.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a few other things as well, because there's more to life than Islam, unless you talk to a Muslim. Let's see. There's the Indy 500. There's whiskey.
Yes, and belly dancing.
There's belly dancing. And there's please come right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying coffee is stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sako as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's Bigfooted enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Tuesday, the year of our Lord 2017. It's May 23rd, and on the line we have what I term the East Coast political goddess. That's Kari Baxter Donovan, and welcome back, Kari Baxter Donovan. We were just talking about Manchester, England, Islam, and all sorts of things like that, but that's not the limit of our speech at this point. Is it? Kari Baxter Donovan?
No, we could go on about so many things, but whiskey's the best.
Hey, you got the attention of Whiskey Dale. If you have something to say about whiskey, let's hear it.
Okay, well, I love whiskey, so I wanted to share with you.
It
about
loves you.
This, whiskey. It does. It actually does. It's a good friend to me sometimes. When everybody else is talking smack and making no sense, you just go find some whiskey. So, hey, I want to find out if any other whiskey drinkers have tried this Elijah Craig, which was new to me. And I tried it the other night, and it was awesome. It was so good. And the guy who owned the bar that I was at, which was downtown Raleigh, it's always these cigar bars.
What?
Think of the name
People
of the bar.
are smoking in bars? Are you kidding me?
Oh, they're smoking.
They're going to smoking
chimneys,
hell.
Drinking whiskey.
Oh, my God.
Telling feminists
no.
to jump off. Yeah, all kinds of
wait.
debauchery goes on there.
Are there womenses in the bar? That can't
not
be
usually,
womenses
that's why
in
I
the
go.
bar drinking and smoking? Ask the feminists. That's
Not
bad.
usually. What? You know how smart I am, don't you?
Of course I do.
Don't you think I'm very smart? Where would I go that I would get all of the men whiskey and smokes to myself? No. There aren't any other women there. That's why I go.
All right.
So if you like whiskey, and I do, you should try this Elijah Craig. Did any other whiskey drinkers in the chat room say that they've tried it?
Whiskey Dale, by the way, in the chat room says, I have not tried that one yet. But tell you what, for Whiskey Dale,
you got to try it.
Can you spell it? Because I'm not sure how that goes. I'm not a whiskey kind of guy, so how's it spelled?
Sure, it's Elijah, Elijah Craig, Craig.
Ah, okay. Now, where is it manufactured?
In Kentucky.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's named after a reverend, so it's okay to drink it. And it's a bourbon whiskey. And you drink it, and it has an after thing on your mouth, like, I don't know, a film or something. And I was talking to the bartender, like, what up with that? It's so awesome. What is it? And he told me. Now, should I tell the secret?
And you quantified it. That's the technical word, right? The after thing. That's exactly what it's called, the after thing. Right. Okay.
Yeah, the after thing. It's technical. It's for we technical people.
Of course.
But I couldn't figure it out. We couldn't figure it out. And then he told us, and it was like, then it was so obvious. It was so apparent. Should I tell the other whiskey drinkers? Let them figure it out and report back later. I don't know.
Tell them now. I know we've got one in chat. Definitely one. There may be others. Plus, people listen in podcast.
It's wintergreen. It's wintergreen. So that is something really cool about that particular whiskey that I have not experienced before. Now, I haven't drank every whiskey in the world, but I'm going to before I die. So this is the one I'm putting in the wintergreen category.
Okay, now wintergreen,
I have been sticking.
Is that a mint?
Yes. It's very minty.
Really?
So it's kind of surprising.
That's unusual.
Yeah, you have to try it.
Even I might like
it.
that.
It is really good. Yeah, you don't like whiskey?
Well, it should not shock anyone listening that I'm more of a vodka guy. But, of course, as everyone knows,
okay.
I keep that secret to myself. I don't tell anyone at all about
I'll
my
tell you,
enjoyment
I'll tell you
of
a
vodka.
secret.
All right.
Okay, well, I'm not going to judge you, but I'll tell you, I've had 2 occasions that were very, very cool where I was basically had found myself in a bar, a whiskey bar.
Okay.
And the owner of the bar said, go ahead, try whatever you want. And I was like, really? Okay. So I've gotten to try some really good stuff, not on my own time. So, that helps.
Okay, and
Otherwise,
you said pour me
the
most expensive damn thing you have and do it now.
Yeah, and let's just go down the whole ladder. Let's go down the whole bar and try every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so there was one that I had really wanted to try, which was Tullamore Dew, and I had gone to a party in D.C. at Shelley's Back Room, another cigar bar, which is across the street from the press club, and it was open bar, have whatever you want. And I went up there, and I'm like, I've got this one that I really want to try, Tullamore Dew. the reason why I wanted to try it is because they have a radical advertising website, branding, tunes. It was so awesome. I'm like, I got to try that. So when I got there, I said, hey, do you have any Tullamore and he said, of course we do. So I got to try that. But again, that was open bar. So I'm not going to judge you because it can be expensive.
Thank you.
It's a lot more expensive than vodka.
Socratic Oath said, I used to be big into vodka when I was a strapping young lad. Well, I guess I must be a
Russian.
strapping.
You have Russians there.
I must be a strapping young lad, too, because I'm still into vodka. And White Mamba says, of course, BC has an entire KC 135 refueling team behind him. That's due, which I consult, as I say at the very end of the show, an hour or so, with luck, less than an hour after the conclusion of the show. Now I know some about vodka. What do you know? What is the most expensive whiskey on the entire planet? Just offhand, do you happen to know?
Oh gosh, I don't. I don't even know. I would guess the most expensive. Oh my gosh. Well, I would guess Glenmorangie, maybe. No, I don't know because listen, I don't pay. Listen, this is the thing. When you're a girl, you don't have to pay. So I'm sorry.
Well,
hey, I have an advantage to you a little bit, only a little bit, just slightly, because you are really cute. But
I'm sorry. Thank God I have a spit guard on the microphone because I just spit at the spit guard.
You are cute. You're a cutie patootie. But there's just something about being a girl. And listen, I'm going to use it to my advantage. Men have some things too, you know.
Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you?
Why not?
There's no reason not to. Hey,
I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market capitalist, so I gotta.
We got Simone in chat, so welcome to Simone in chat. Simone in chat says tequila. Well, when I mentioned tequila, all I can say about BZ and tequila is back off. Never. I learned my lesson years ago in my early 20s about tequila and me. For whatever reason, like some other people, tequila and I, it's like we do not get along. We do not shake hands, and we do not pour it down our throats anymore. Tequila? No. So, question to you, Kari Baxter Donovan, tequila or not?
Yes.
Really?
Never. After that one time, there was this party in college, and I think it ended up to be a strange tie party with people with ties around their heads, and I'm just never going to do that ever again. No, ever. Not going to do it.
Now, tequila and me makes me angry, and things break, and I get into bad trouble. And I learned that in my 20s, and never since. Never since. White Mamba in chat says, this is the most expensive whiskey around Macallan. He says 1946.
Macallan, okay.
1946, $460,000 per bottle. Holy crap.
Okay. Well, you can party with some really crazy people, and they want to have an opportunity to throw their money away. So if it's their money, they get to throw it away. All right. But that name, Macallan's just like, I just see that around a lot, so I wouldn't have expected that. But it could be because I don't really know the prices of things. I love money, but I really don't have enough time to pay attention to it.
No killing. Whiskey Dale in chat says, tequila tastes like you're chewing on an old tire. I have to say, I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah. And whiskey's good. Now, if you got a really good whiskey, I have a feeling you might like it because you're kind of a whiskey personality.
I went to a friend's party the other day, and he's really big into whiskey. All sorts of names lined him up for me, and he said this one. And this son of a bitch, I should have known because he had just a bit of a, the outside of his lip was turned up just a bit, and he handed me this small glass of whiskey, and he said, "Go ahead, take it down, really slowly." And damn, I almost choked. And then, of course, all the people right there, they started laughing out loud because that was so funny because BZ can't hold his liquor. I know. It wasn't funny. No, it wasn't funny to me.
It's not true.
That's right. It's my throat, not their throat. But they all laughed like bastards.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Well,
it was sad.
I'll look for one that's not fiery.
Yeah, it was sad.
It can be a little fiery.
Fiery? Holy fucking jumping fucking
If you
Jesus.
ever get stuck in that situation again, or if you just have really cheap whiskey, what you can do is add a little ginger ale, or add a lot of ginger ale. That's kind of a good drink for a.
I'm sure
if you're stuck,
if I wanted ginger ale, I would have to go a mile down to the 7-Eleven to go get some. I'm sure he didn't have any there.
Yes, you don't really ever want to mix it, but if you had to, if somebody was twisting your arm and saying you have to drink this,
but
or
then
die,
I'd be
just
just
add some ginger ale.
I'd be a lightweight. Nobody wants to be known as a lightweight. Hey, I got a question for you. This doesn't have a damn thing to do with whiskey. What is
okay? No more whiskey.
What is shadow banning? Because a couple of people have said, BZ,
yes.
we think you're being shadow banned on Twitter. And
well, you probably are.
I had Jersey girl Sandy tell me, hey, I think you're being shadow banned. I don't get stuff. White Mamba has said, hey, dude, I think you're getting shadow banned. I don't know what the hell that is. Maybe you can explain that to me and the rest of the people listening.
Okay, well, shadow banned is basically where the purpose of it is for you to not know that you've been banned. So it could be, in my case, I've been shadow banned because I've gotten into fights with Rick Wilson and Claire McCaskill, or whatever her name is.
The politician.
I get banned after. Yeah, when I get into a fight with a politician, it's I usually get shadow banned. Or I'll get into some kind of fight with, for the last time that I got shadow banned was over the monuments, for example. So I will have gotten into a fight and somebody complains about, I've broken the rules of friendship and rainbows or something. I don't know. It used to be back in the day that you had to have a lot of people report you, and they'd go and report you, and you'd get, kicked in the butt for a day or something like that. But now they have more sophisticated algorithms. So it could be that you're mentioning something, if you mention Trump, for example, or whatever it is. And the purpose is, and they have admitted that they shadow ban people. They say that they've shadow banned people, but they send notes saying you're being shadow banned, or you're being shadow banned, or you can only use certain features. So, for example, the other day when I was communicating with you and I was telling you I've been shadow banned, I could use my mail function in Twitter, my message function in Twitter.
Right.
So I was corresponding with people. I was communicating with people in that mail function. And there was a couple of guys who were sending me notes as I'm talking to them to say, hey, do you see this? I'm sending you a tweet. And I wouldn't see it.
Well, now that happened when you and I attempted to coordinate on the show, because initially I sent you a tweet in the open, in public, and said we corresponded back and forth, and I said, okay, bottom of the hour, blah, 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 here's the time. And then you sent me a message, a private message, as if you hadn't received my tweet at all. So that's shadow banning?
So that's shadow banning, yes. So there are people who are sending me tweets and I'm not seeing them. And so I intentionally will go and put some kind of bombastic tweet just to see, am I going to get any kind of response from this? There are a couple of certain people who respond to, everything that I post, and that's very nice of them. And they'll, literally I have one little buddy. He likes everything I say, which is so sweet because I think he really does like everything that I say. That's awesome. Because who wouldn't, right? No, but he hasn't liked some of mine for, I don't know, maybe a week. But he's communicating with me in mail or whatever message, whatever you want to call that. So, but I'm not seeing any of his tweets that he's sending back to me. So that's what shadow banning is. They've taken you out of commission, but they don't want you to know that they have. So you're still up there and you're still tweeting away. And if people are telling you that they're not getting you in their feed. Oh, also the other thing that happens to me is I probably have twice as many followers as what shows on my numbers, and I lose about 100 followers a day.
How would you know that?
Well, this is, I mean, in other ways, I wouldn't know it, but I have a handful of people who follow me and want to see what I'm saying every day, who read all of my tweets, who like everything that I have, I've got a couple buds. And so they'll say, hey, I had to come find you again, and I tried to find you and I couldn't find you. And because it's, if it was one person saying that, I'd be like, yeah, right. But it's 2 or 3 people, when it's 5 people, then I'm thinking, what the heck? How are they dropping off my most active readers? And so,
a question for you then.
They've taken me out, and so I'm guessing. Mm-hmm.
A question for you then.
Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
If you're shadow banned, though, what you're saying is Twitter will not send you anything. Is that correct?
Now, I have both gotten things and not gotten things. The other day, I was shut out. I could not tweet. It would not take anything that I tweeted. Okay. People were telling me they were looking for me and couldn't find me. I was communicating in mail. People were telling me they were sending things. So all of that was happening, and I did not receive any notice on that day. The night before, I had made because I'm a troll. Listen, I'm a troll, and I'm going to admit it. But I've been trolling the internet for many years. I've been trolling Twitter for a long time. And I cut way back on my trolling and just kind of did basic regular posting. But the other night during the monuments thing, I did troll a guy. And the next day is when I got shut out completely. So,
okay, well, that brings up an excellent point. We have about 11 or 12 minutes left before the bottom of the hour. So you mentioned monuments. So clearly you're doing something with regard to monuments. So before we wrap up at the bottom of the hour, take it in terms of monuments, and then you wanted to say something about belly dancing. So whichever you'd like to address first, hit it.
Because my fans are like my fans. Like I have fans, and so this I don't have any fans. That's crazy. I had people say, "I'll pay you money if you talk about belly dancing," and so I do.
Pay you money.
I'll make it fast. I'll pay you money. I'll donate. I'll donate money. Well, not me. Pay me money. I'll donate money to your flag thing if you talk about belly dancing. So I brought my belly dancing scarf.
All right.
And belly dancing, it's awesome. It's a good workout, and you can belly dance to all different kinds of music, including any kind of hip hop. Anything. It's just moving the hips, and there you go. I could talk more about belly dancing, but that deserves a donation to my Virginia Flaggers group. That's where the money's going, not to me personally, to the Flaggers.
Okay, question for you then. If you talk for belly dancing for another 2 minutes, do you get more money?
No.
Oh, damn it!
No, because I got to tell you about the. Do you want to hear about belly dancing? So
if you
monument.
If you get more money, yes.
Well, I'll have to come back and talk about it another time, and then I can tell you all about it. But I want to tell you about this thing that I'm doing with Patrick Howley in Big League Politics.
Okay.
So I'm very fortunate. He has given me a little bit of a platform for this issue on the monuments, and he's doing a new thing with Big League Politics. Look him up. Cassandra Fairbanks is like breaking stories. She's awesome. She's on that site. And I am very fortunate that he has allowed me to have a little platform there. So I think I've got 2 articles up. And then, all this stuff with Seth Rich is happening and whatever. But he has specifically given a platform to people who have no other voice. So I'm really proud of him.
I have to interrupt you right now. I have to interrupt you right now. We're talking to Kari Baxter Donovan, and she's mentioning monuments. But for the people that don't know what kind of monuments you're talking about, please fill them in. Monuments of what?
Oh, and I'm sorry. So there's a movement going on, and I can give you hours of information about this, but basically to take down the Confederate monuments. But it's turning into more than that. Now it's turning into they want to take down all of the monuments of the saints in Louisiana. So it sort of started in Louisiana. It's in Florida right now. They had something going on in Alabama. They had a vote in Alabama, and where Alabama is going to kind of shut this movement down. It's going to move into Raleigh at some point. That was one of my stories that I had gotten up on Big League Politics. And so that's when I really decided that I was going to do a lot more research so I could write these articles. And so in the meantime, I have made so many contacts, amazing contacts of people who are organizing movements to defend Southern heritage, defend Confederate monuments. If you see that they took Lee down from Lee Circle in Louisiana, and that was a big deal to them. And they took down Beauregard, and he was an abolitionist. You know, they're saying it's because of racism, of course, because we're all racist, that they have to take these monuments down. I wrote an article about a little girl who got expelled from school for defending the Confederate flag. After the black lawmakers, the black caucus walked out, this girl got expelled for walking out of her class for defending the Confederate flag. So it's a movement. It's a movement called Stop the Hate. It's, of course, community organizing. It's, of course, Obama. And I think this comes from some of the activists in the area. They feel like that Obama and Hillary, they think Hillary's involved, are trying to eradicate all Southern heritage to make it comfortable for Muslims and for immigrants, and that they're taking over New Orleans. Now,
well, yes, let's just eradicate history. Whether you like it or not, history is history and is immutable, unless you're a leftist.
Right. Right. And so it's very leftist. It's very progressive. You know, there's always been a little bit of a battle, but they're really making inroads now because they've gotten 4 monuments down in Louisiana, which are basically thrown in a garbage heap. So these huge monuments, they were told, the protesters were told that they would be taken care of and put in a warehouse, but there are photos that they're just being thrown in a scrap heap. These, 100-year-old, and the monuments had been purchased with private funds and donated by
Wait. Stop right there. You're telling me that people are taking down and destroying things that are not publicly purchased, that are privately owned, and they're taking them down and destroying them. Is that true?
Yes. They're destroying them, but they're also collecting on them. Yeah.
Okay, then the next question is this. Those particular monuments paid for not out of the taxpayer's purse, are they on public property or are they on private property?
They're on, okay, so then there gets something even trickier in Louisiana. The state of Louisiana is going through a process right now where they're going to be protecting their Confederate monuments. And in the most bizarre twist of history of New Orleans is saying we're separate. We have city rights. And so we're saying in our city we're taking them down. So in the city of New Orleans, they're going down. But in the state of Louisiana, they're actually acting to protect the monuments. There's legislation that's gone through, and where it is today, I don't know, but last week it looked like it was going to pass, where there was a Republican lawmaker who said, instead of taking these things down, you need to take it to the people to have a vote. And that his bill was making its way through. And it looks like that was going to be the law in the state of Louisiana. But in the city of New Orleans, the place is going crazy. And there is also another thing, Whitey's Plantation, which is a plantation that's been restored and dedicated to teaching and educating about slavery. So that's standing.
Okay, is
the
that
one that's
private?
dedicated to slavery. That is, I believe, city-owned as well, and Obama was instrumental in getting that started. And the city restored this old plantation called Whitey's Plantation. You can look that up and see. And at one point, they were enraging people, saying that the Confederate monuments were going to be taken to Whitey's Plantation. And you can see, if you go to Whitey's Plantation on Facebook where they're talking about it, and that was very upsetting to the protesters. And to they don't want to be called protesters. They want to be called defenders.
Oh,
and
right.
A number of them.
Euphemisms.
A number of them
Wonderful.
have been making faces. Right. So, I mean, the Confederate quote unquote protesters want to be called. They consider themselves to be defending Southern heritage in history, and most of these people are descendants of Confederates, and numbers of them are black, which is another thing. there's another complex twist to this that a lot of government does not want to hear. They will not let you talk about, and that is they are demanding that. So the black lawmakers walked out on the vote saying, you're all white supremacists and we don't have to stand for this. It's offensive, and they left. Well, if you go in the city of New Orleans and you go and you look at who's defending these monuments, some of them are black. So they're having their heritage ripped from them. Their identity is whatever the government tells them they can, identify with, and then they're being called white supremacists. So it's crazy, and the media is not covering it. They're not showing it. These people have things all over Facebook, but who's collecting up those stories? You know what I mean? And going deeper than what Facebook can do. You do not see even Drudge. You don't see anything on Drudge. And even my conservative websites that I go on, there isn't anything. And so I've been trying to kind of ring the bell and say, this is much bigger than just a few monuments. And this is much bigger than Southern heritage. And I am a descendant of Confederacy, and actually I have stuff on, people on the Union side as well. But I align myself more with the Confederacy. But anyway, it's not about that so much as it is about the government overreaching again and taking down private property because they're saying it's on public property, right? And just trashing it and just saying you just can't have that because we say so. And then, of course, there's a political agenda. There is this leftist, progressive, communist movement that Obama is involved in still to this day, and they're winning in a lot of places. They're not winning everywhere, but, they want to, most of these people, like here in North Carolina, the article that I wrote, here in North Carolina, the man who's in the Department of Cultural and Historical Resources, or whatever that is, he has his fingers in everything, in history, in curriculum, in museum exhibits, right? And this is the guy who refused to fly the Confederate flag on Confederate Memorial Day here on the 10th. And that's my first article that I wrote. When I contacted Patrick and I said, hey, can I write about this? And he said yes, which, again, is very cool of him because he has a new platform and they're breaking huge stories. And he's got a lot of cred. And
okay,
he's
tell you
letting
what,
me have a little corner there.
Tell you what, it's the bottom of the hour. Before we go to the break, can you tell me where people can find you? Can you tell me where people can find you on Twitter? Can you tell me where people can find your articles or any other links that you'd like to make? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I'm on Twitter at Habit1776, Happit, Habit. And I'm Kari Donovan on Facebook. And the articles that I'm talking about are on bigleaguepolitics.com.
Okay, outstanding.
Thank you for letting me come on.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've been listening to the East Coast political goddess, who is Kari Baxter Donovan. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Thank you, Kari, for being on. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back in just a bit. We got another segment yet to go. Please don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Mim from Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds. Join your friends from SHR Media at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 19th through the 22nd for 3 amazing days of liberty-oriented discussion, investment advice, and the Anthem Film Festival. It's our big 10th anniversary, featuring keynote speaker William Shatner and Freedom Fest favorites, including Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Lee Edwards, David Boaz, Doug Casey, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Grover Norquist, Peter Schiff, and many more. Don't miss out. Register at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all-caps code SHR Media.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. It's Tuesday. It's May 23rd, the year of our Lord 2017. We'd been speaking for the past hour to Kari Baxter Donovan, the East Coast political goddess, and we spoke about everything from whiskey to belly dancing to the Manchester bombing and all points in between. We didn't get to the Indy 500. She said she had something that she wanted to talk about regarding the Indy 500, and that's so sad. From CBS News, the newest information, Manchester bomber identified, latest in terror investigation. This is from today. Police on Tuesday identified the man who blew himself up the previous night at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England, as 22-year-old Salman Abedi. A-B-E-D-I. Abedi, doesn't make any difference. He's dead. CBS News confirmed Abedi was known to British authorities prior to the attack. Now, should that come as any kind of a surprise to any properly thinking individual? I don't think so. An unnamed European security official told the Associated Press that Abedi was a Briton of Libyan descent. Again, are we shocked? I say no. Salford University near Manchester City Centre confirmed to CBS News that he was a second-year student at the school and was studying business and management. The funny thing is, while all of that was occurring, CNN, MSNBC were pretty much ignoring the terror attack to what were they focusing on? What do you think they were focusing on? Would it surprise you to know that they were focusing on Russian collusion? Yes, terrible Russian collusion. It was disgusting.
England tonight, where police say there'd been a number of fatalities and a serious incident after a concert at Manchester Arena. A senior U.S. intelligence official tells NBC News there has been an explosion. We'll get the latest on that in a minute. We begin, however, with the shocking news in Washington tonight.
Oh, wait, see? Big bombing. Oh, thank you for making my point. Big bombing, but that aside, people are dead. Hey, screw those people. Here's the real news.
The Washington Post reports that President Trump asked 2 top U.S. intelligence officials to publicly deny any evidence of collusion with the Russians during the 2016 presidential election.
Right. That's not new. Excuse me. Russia. That's the news. People getting killed. Screw them. They don't deserve to be mentioned. Screw them. That's... come on. Just like I've said, news about the news is the news. Now, here's something that people are not telling you. And I'm going to play a portion of this from an individual who writes for InfoWars. And no, I'm not a follower of Alex Jones. Listening to Alex Jones is like listening to Fran Drescher or Mark Levin. I can only take just a few minutes of them. I like Mark Levin's message, but you get my point. However, Paul Joseph Watson I listen to quite a bit, and here's something that's kind of interesting that just occurred either yesterday or the day before. Jerome Corsi just got a press pass to attend the briefings at the White House. This is absolutely unprecedented. Why? Because Jerome Corsi works for InfoWars.
Europe has been hit with yet another terrorist atrocity after at least 22 people were killed in an attack on the Manchester arena claimed by ISIS. The second attack on the UK in the space of 2 months. Victims, many of them teenage girls, massacred, mutilated, maimed. Why does this keep happening? Because our political class has demoted the most basic role of government to protect the lives of its people and replaced it with a different role. Tolerance. Tolerance of women being abused and harassed on the street. Tolerance of rape gangs abducting and abusing young girls for years. Tolerance of all the barbarisms of Sharia law. Tolerance of terrorist attacks. Tolerance is now more important than the basic right to life. Tolerance. Tolerance of terror being part and parcel.
Stop. This is the article that we were referring to earlier in the first segment of the show. This article says, Sadiq Khan, London mayor, says terror attacks part and parcel of living in a major city. What did I tell you? These fucktards are attempting to norm this shit out. I told you about the phrase that Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, and now these people are embracing that phrase. It's absolutely incredible. Dumbing things down. It's mind-boggling.
Of living in a major city, according to London Mayor Sadiq Khan.
Europe is getting used to attacks like this, Mika. We have to.
There's only one way Britain should respond to attacks such as Manchester. That is by carrying on exactly as before.
Just carry on. Forget about it. Be tolerant until it happens again and again and again. Tell me, how do the parents of dead kids just carry on exactly as before? How do the teenage girls whose legs have been blown off just carry on exactly as before?
As much as I'm praying for Manchester, I'm praying for Muslims who have to deal with racism and Islamophobia due to this tragedy.
Right, so that's what our main concern should be after dozens of children have been blown up. People being mean to Muslims.
Right, because that's the most important thing, don't you know? Except let's look at some statistics, shall we? Who are the victims of most all of the greater proportion of attacks in the EU and also in the United States? Well, yes, that would be Jews. But you can't say that because mostly people don't care much about the Jews. And the phrase that I was talking about earlier was defining deviancy down. What Daniel Patrick Moynihan said was that's getting things to the point where you're attempting to, just like Sadiq Khan, normalize these terrible, terrible actions. I want to bring that phrase back. I want everyone to start using it again. Daniel Patrick Moynihan was a Democrat who would actually work across the aisle with the Republicans. Those days are pretty much gone, are they not?
As a society, we need to make a choice. Which do we value more? Protecting the feelings of Muslims or preventing our children from being blown up?
Well, I think you have the answer with regard to that. In the EU, in the UK, certainly, most definitely in Sweden, in France, and Germany, they'd much rather your children now be sacrificed on the altar of political correctness. If some of you get killed, oh well, no big deal.
Muslims are to blame, when in reality Muslim taxi drivers are offering free lifts and a Muslim doctor working into the night saving lives.
Yeah, the fact that some Muslim taxi drivers are offering free lifts doesn't negate the fact that Islam has a problem with violence. You utter moron.
Islamophobia and sickening fake news is rife tonight is showing a lot of people to be vile humans.
Yeah, vile humans follow a belief system that justifies massacring teenagers at a pop concert. Should we concentrate on stopping them or be more angry at inaccurate tweets?
Seeing all the posts about Manchester just reminds me of how we only notice it if it happens to white people.
Yeah, I'm sure that only the people that were in there attending the concerts were Caucasoids, right? They were only Caucasoids, isn't that correct? I'm done with this. You know, as far as I'm concerned, EU, European Union, you're on your fucking own. You get what you deserve. If more people die, you deserve that too. The people that voted for your patterns, the people that voted for what you like, continue with that. You've indicated that you're perfectly well and good with all of that. So when you send your children out, go ahead, knowing that they have the potential to be sacrificed on the altar of political correctness. Well, we're talking about Sweden, the rape capital of the world. When you send your mothers, your wives, and your children, your daughters out into the streets of Sweden, that's okay if they get raped. If they get raped, it's just another stat. Just another stat. Ain't no problem with that. Let's go to politics for a second. The Director of National Intelligence these days is called Dan Coates, and he had something to say about the national security leaks that are coming from inside the government of the United States.
And isn't it true that some of these leaks can be damaging to national security?
That's John McCain, our good friend John McCain, with the R after his name, which should actually be a D.
Director Coates.
Leaks have become a very significant, played a very significant negative role relative to our national security. The release of information not only undermines confidence in our allies about our ability to maintain secure information that we share with them. It jeopardizes sources and methods that are invaluable to our ability to find out what's going on and what those threats are.
In light of
lives are at stake in many instances, and leaks jeopardize those lives.
That's absolutely correct. Now, if you recall, what did I tell you last week about some of the leaks? That's this. I happen to name names. No one wants to know the names. I named the names of Dina Powell inside the White House last week. That people indicate, two separate sources indicate that she is one of the sources of the leaks. The other is H.R. McMaster. Boy, I sure as shite got a crap load of pushback on H.R. McMaster. Do a little research, boys and girls. Do a little research about H.R. McMaster. Now, I'm not saying that without a doubt that's all there is to it. There's going to be a lot more. But if you were to begin looking, those are some individuals that you might want to take a peek at. Here's something that no one has presented, that no one has played for you, and this is John Brennan, that the IC says that this is so astounding because it's entirely against the meme that you're hearing now, and yet that's why this is not played far and wide. The IC, the Intelligence Committee, is saying that Trump has not tried to get them to drop investigations or push back on narratives, and they said this out loud.
I wanted to follow up on a comment that I made in the opening statement, and that is with respect to a number of the allegations that have been made recently.
Okay, stop. This is why this is incredibly important to listen to what this guy says, because this is a Democrat saying this. This is Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat from Fornicalia, and he's the highest-ranking Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, and he's going to tell you this.
That the president or his aides may have sought to enlist the help of members of the IC or Director Comey himself to drop the Flynn investigation. Have any members of the IC shared with you their concerns that the president was attempting to enlist the help of people within the intelligence community to drop the Flynn investigation?
No, sir.
Are you aware of any efforts the president has made to enlist the support of intelligence community personnel to push back on a narrative involving the collusion issue that Mr. Rooney was asking about?
I am unaware of it.
That's John Brennan. The answer to the question, both from John Brennan, was I'm not aware of it and no. Put that on your pipe and smoke it. The Democrats will not be happy until they find one shred, one little teeny shred of evidence that indicates that the Russians were definitely involved with anything whatsoever to do with the fixing of the election. And they haven't found one thing. Not one thing. Not one thing at all. In passing, by the way, apparently Sir Roger Moore, died at the age of 89 after a very brief bout with cancer. For those of you who are not aware, Roger Moore played the third James Bond in the James Bond series. If I'm not mistaken, he said that his favorite movie was the 1977 film The Spy Who Loved Me. And one of my all-time favorite character actors from two of those movies, you probably already know, old Silver Teeth himself, Richard Kyle, as Jaws. One of my all-time favorite actors was him. So, hats off. Very sorry to hear that about Roger Moore. Now, James Comey is coming up. He's going to speak as a civilian in open hearings. And what are some of the things that we may want to ask him while he's there? And the question will be, of course, we need to ask him these questions, but will the GOP ask them? Because, the Democrats certainly won't, right?
Now, page 4, the Comey connection. The former director of the FBI will testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee sometime after Memorial Day. Of course, he will be questioned about his conversations with President Trump as the Democrats desperately search for any shred of political fodder to continue their relentless attacks on the commander-in-chief. What they are hoping for is to build a case of obstruction of justice against President Trump, which is preposterous. Yet, the Republicans on Capitol Hill have allowed this witch hunt to proceed. They should be asking Comey, who are the leakers at the FBI? Who are the people within the deep state that are committing federal crimes by leaking classified information to the news media? They should also ask Comey for any and all of his memos that he apparently writes to himself, dating back to and including when he reported to the 44th President Barack Obama. These notes might shed some light on Comey's twisted reasoning to not prosecute Hillary Clinton.
Stop right there. Do you not realize that already this has occurred last week in the Washington Post? The Washington Post said last week that it has information about a memo from James Comey saying that Trump specifically asked him to back off the Michael Flynn investigation. And this was the source, someone who called up on the telephone to a Washington Post reporter and said, I'm going to read a memo to you over the telephone about this information. And because the Washington Post wanted it to be true, well, shit, it must be true. Now, every right-thinking individual said, okay, show me a copy of that memo. Have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that in all that time, in a week, in the news business is a long time. Show me or point out to me the follow-up article from the Washington Post indicating that they have more information about that particular memo. Go ahead, I'll wait. Oh, there is no such thing. Interesting. Yes, there is no such thing. Also, recently, this is enjoyable. Whenever I have something that involves Trey Gowdy, it's like something with Tucker Carlson. I can't not play these things because these two guys, and to a degree Jason Chaffetz, who's going to be going away, unfortunately, he's not going to finish his term. Whenever I hear something from either Jason Chaffetz or Trey Gowdy or Tucker Carlson, I have to play it. Here's a little tete-a-tete back and forth between John Brennan when he sat down this week and told Trey Gowdy to his face, I don't do evidence, when Trey Gowdy asked him specifically about that kind of thing. Do you think he did that really well? My guess is he didn't.
You and I both know what the word evidence means. And we're not getting into whether or not you corroborated, contradicted, examined, cross-examined. We're not getting into how you tested and probed the reliability of that evidence, it's a really simple question. Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign that I was concerned about.
Parse.
Because of known Russian efforts to suborn such individuals.
Known Russian evidence, yes. Where's the evidence?
And it raised questions in my mind, again, whether or not the Russians were able to gain the cooperation of those individuals. I don't know whether or not such collusion, that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know. But I know that there was a sufficient basis of information and intelligence that required further investigation by the Bureau to determine whether or not U.S. persons were actively conspiring, colluding with Russian officials.
Do you know the basis of that information that you share with the Bureau? I mean, what was the nature of the evidence?
I think, Mr. Gowdy, this committee has now been provided information that relates to that issue in terms of information that the agency shared with the Bureau.
Meaning I don't want to answer the question.
And that is something that is appropriately classified.
All right. And you learned that when? When in this chronology did you learn of the contacts between these official members of the Trump campaign, or because there's kind of a tripartite hierarchy. There's Trump himself, there are official members of the campaign, and then there are folks who represented themselves as being connected with him.
I'm not going to try to identify individuals nor try to parse it.
I don't want you to parse it. I just want you to identify.
Well, he was parsing his answer. What the hell?
Identify the individuals. I don't want you to parse it.
I'm not going to identify the individuals because this is information that...
Right. Okay. So he doesn't want to talk about evidence. In other words, again, the Democrats only want to talk about what they want to talk about when they wish to talk about it. This is interesting. The final bit for tonight, shall we say. Another 5 minutes to go before the end of another rousing Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Here's a reporter who asks the Trump budget director, whose name is Mulvaney, about cutting environmental funding because, that's terrible to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Director. Can you characterize the treatment of climate science programs and the cuts to those? And do you describe those as a taxpayer waste if you do cut them?
You tell me. I think the National Science Foundation last year used your taxpayer money to fund a climate change musical.
Oh, it's just getting started. If you liked that, there's more buttery goodness, as I want to say.
Do you think that's a waste of your money?
Silence.
I'll take that as a yes, by the way. So you see my point. What I think you saw happen during the previous administration is the pendulum went too far to one side, where we were spending too much of your money on climate change and not very efficiently. We don't get rid of.
Notice how he answers the question. He says, and correctly so, not our money, not the government's money, your money, meaning you, me, the American taxpayer.
Here, do we target it? Sure. Do a lot of the EPA reductions aimed at reducing the focus on climate science? Yes. Does it mean that we are anti-science? Absolutely not. We're simply trying to get things back in order to where we can look at the folks who pay the taxes and say, look, yeah, we want to do some climate science, but we're not going to do some of the crazy stuff the previous administration did. And I will note for the record that you didn't say anything about about the musical. Yes, ma'am.
And so that's taking basically the playbook of the left, especially with regard to leftist journalistas, and throwing it right back at them, which is exactly where that should be and how it should go. What a grand show. I've enjoyed it all.
Monsieur has been lost!
boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I've really enjoyed this show. On Tuesday, May 23rd, the year of our Lord 2017, because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I want to thank you for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter @bzep, also on gab.ai @bzep, and, of course, on my sterling little blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find their good music at ReverbNation.com.
To the folks that I
Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company, because, after all, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Tiaras, all of my tiaras, every last damn one of them, are by My Little Pony. Thanks, of course, to my personal KC-135 Kettle 1 refueling team contingent. God bless them, everyone. And thank you ever so kindly for listening live, listening in chat, interacting in chat. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.